Okay. Thumbs up from Jean if she can see this. Perfect. So good evening, everyone. Like I mentioned, I'm Catherine Winkler. I'm a program manager with Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper. Tonight we're doing the second of 3 public meetings on some Erie County natural habitat parks that we are exploring opportunities for to increase public access. Tonight's meeting is going to focus on Higgins Park. So just some general welcomes and introductions. With me tonight, I have Jean Biter, Jen Fee, Margot Valenti from Waterkeeper, and in addition, we have Christian Guardano from Erie County. Just some general housekeeping items to note. We are recording this meeting. We're going to be placing it on our website for people who are not able to join us. So if you're uncomfortable with that, please turn off your camera so you won't be making any funny faces. We're going to keep you muted for now. It doesn't look like we have a huge group, and I'm sure you'll all be really well behaved. So maybe at the end of the meeting, we're just going to go ahead and unmute people for a general discussion. I'll be giving you a quick presentation, but there's some poll questions that we're going to be putting in there as well. Feel free to answer, not to answer. It's more just general questions, so you'll see. But if you feel uncomfortable answering any of them, please feel free to skip them. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, we're going to go ahead and do a presentation on the Buffalo River, where we were, what's been done, and where we're going. I'm going to give you a quick overview of Thomas F. Higgins Natural Habitat Park, and then we're going to want to gather our comments and feedback from you. So while you might think I'm talking for a really long time, it's really to get us to the point where I want to know, and we want to know, what do you want to see for this park? This is your park, and that's what we want. So please bear with us until we get through the presentation, because at the end, that's really where you're going to shine. So let's go ahead and get started with our first poll question. Go ahead and move this. So poll question number 1. How familiar are you with the history and restoration of the Buffalo River? Very familiar, somewhat familiar, not at all familiar. You can be honest. No one's judging anyone. How close do you live to the Buffalo River? So we really want to give a sense from you guys. You know, are you a local? Do you live right next door? Is this your neighborhood park? Is this somewhere that you explore often? What is your age range? Just want to get an idea of, you know, what we're dealing with here. So we got about 9 people online. We're about halfway there. So I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds, and then I'll be able to share the results with you. And if anyone's trying to answer the polls, but they're not able to, jot down the questions. We'll take comments, answers later. All right, so it looks like we have a bunch of the answers in. So how familiar are you with the history and the restoration of the Buffalo River? Very familiar, somewhat familiar, both tied, so that's good. You know, you're gonna hear me talk about it for a little bit today, so it'll be great. How close do you live to the Buffalo River? I can walk there. 4 of you, that's amazing. That's really what we wanted. We wanted to make sure, well, I'm not really sure how you people walk, but if you can walk there, that's great. This is your neighborhood park, and we really want to see that. Age range, we're really looking at 60 plus and 25 to 30, 39. So we're looking good. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of where we were with the Buffalo River. Excuse me. So pre-settlement, Buffalo River never existed. The Buffalo River, as you know it now, is a man-made channel. Buffalo River was actually Buffalo Creek, which was a uninhabited marsh infested with mosquitoes. The picture you're seeing in front of you is called The View of the Lake and Fort Erie from Buffalo Creek, painted in 1810 by Edward Walsh. So this gives you an idea of where we were and what we'll never get back to. So as we're restoring the river itself, you know, we'll never be able to get here, but it was at one point an uninhabitable marsh. Then came the Erie Canal. So by 1820, approximately 2,000 people occupied the village of Buffalo. Then rumblings started going on about, you know, the Erie Canal, and there needs to be a terminus somewhere in Lake Erie. And Buffalo and Black Rock were going head to head with who was going to get it. So the villagers of Buffalo went ahead and they're like, nope, we're doing this. And strong-willed Buffalonians we are. They went and they took it upon themselves to dredge the harbor and construct a pier and basically get Buffalo where it is able to be that terminus of the Erie Canal. So in 1821, we got it, which brought upon this. The picture on the left is the foot of Main Street around 1890, and 1850 is the foot of Main Street as well. So as you can see, that Erie Canal really brought on grain manufacturing and mills. Boats were lined up stern to stern across that river where you could walk from one side to the other without ever getting your feet wet. So it became a huge port, and industry boomed, and people started flocking to the Buffalo area. So in the 1900s, I'm just gonna go back by 1900, we went from 20,000 residents to 350,000 residents. And this is just a nice little quote that just take a look at some of the words. The city's most whimsical thoroughfare, Buffalo River, but it's sluggish, inky, and choked with chemical poison, littered with trash. But it's an artery of commerce. The Buffalo River is really what spurred the development of the city of Buffalo. Then the St. Lawrence Seaway was opened, which no longer needed Buffalo as a stopping point to get grain from the East Coast to the Midwest and back. So the grain mills really fell by the wayside, and heavy manufacturing really took a turn. On the left-hand side is the Catherine Street Peninsula, right in the heart of the Buffalo River. On the right-hand side is Buffalo Color Corporation on the bottom of the photo, and Republic Steel. So what happened was there was all this land available, the grain mills were gone, and heavy industry came in. Buffalo was now the largest producer of dye stuff, indigo dye, to make blue jeans in the entire world. So not only did these companies use the Buffalo River for transport, they also used the water for processing purposes and as a discharge of their waste products. So imagine what that river looked like when you were trying to get rid of your indigo dye. It was a nice inky blue color for quite a while. So the 1960s, stuff started to change. There was an economic downturn, but not quite as much as fast forward a couple decades. But in the 1960s, the Buffalo River was declared biologically dead. It was a repulsive holding basin for industrial and municipal waste, devoid of oxygen and almost sterile. Only the most hardy animals were living in that river, and we're probably talking about carp. There was no habitat along the banks. There was really no reason to come to this river. So just have another quick poll for you. Just want to gauge whether or not, and I'm thinking we might have anyone who remembers the Buffalo River during these times. All right, just give us 1 second. Poll's taking a moment. There it is. Do you remember the Buffalo River when it looked like this? Great job answering, everyone. That pause really helped. The anticipation. These are amazing numbers. All right, just give it 5 more seconds. And the results. Do you remember when the Buffalo River looked like this? 5 of you, 63%? No. 3 of you, 38%? Yes. So, it was a different time. The river was really a working river. It was not meant to recreate on. It was there to, move grain, move dye stuff, all of that. So what's been done? So we weren't alone. This was happening all across the Great Lakes. In 1987, the Buffalo River was declared an area of concern, along with 43 other areas. So these were all areas that had beneficial use impairments that were causing impairments to the lakes. So the International Joint Commission got together and said, you guys need to clean this stuff up. And Buffalo River was primarily listed due to contaminated sediment and loss of habitat. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of change between the 1960s and probably 1990 when Buffalo took an economic downturn. The heavy industry moved out, the steel plants moved out, things got shut down, but that left us with a lot of contaminated upland sites as well as a river that was full of contaminated bottom sediments. However, our first step, and one of the biggest steps that Buffalo River has taken, was the contaminated sediment dredging and capping, which occurred from 2011 to 2016. This was a multi-phased, multi-partner effort to get those sediments out of the Buffalo River. The photo you're seeing is actually next to Buffalo Color Area A, the South Park Bridge, and Tesla. So bucket by bucket into a scow, pushed into a confined disposal facility. Those contaminated sediments were removed from the river so they can no longer be resuspended and cause harm to our waterways, our animals, and our humans. Once we had that all done, we were left with a really nice clean river and a lot of vacant land. But the vacant land was privately owned, and we knew that we needed to increase habitat, and we had a very lofty goal of 25% of the AOC shoreline that we wanted to restore. 25% of 6.2 miles in a heavily urban area was no easy task. But piece by piece, partner by partner, we went ahead and we did it. And we've, as of, I would say, last year, we have exceeded that goal. I think we're at about 27%. So that was a definite big win for the Buffalo River. So with the sediment cleanup, the habitat restoration, we really saw a spike of people coming to the Buffalo River. Not just people, but businesses and condos. So on the left-hand side is a picture of Resurgence Brewing Company. The change in the Ohio Street Corridor has been exceptional over the last few years, really bringing people, that's your main artery from downtown Buffalo to the Buffalo River, and it is teeming now with Resurgence Brewing Company. Is a photo on the left. The two photos on the right are two upper level townhouse condos that were built along the banks of the Buffalo River. And the bottom photo is a photo of Buffalo Riverworks, which I'm guessing at this point everybody has seen, at least the silos, or been there. And it has been said directly to me by the owners of Buffalo Riverworks that if the cleanup of the Buffalo River did not happen, they would not have built there. They saw what was happening and they really wanted to jump in. So this is all great. We've cleaned up the river, we've added habitat, people are starting to live along the river and come down and eat and drink and just have a great time. But where does this take us? Where do we want to be going next? Because this really has turned into a recreational waterway on a working river. So in the upper left-hand picture, the picture from a few years ago, there is a citation underneath the other picture. I apologize for that, but really what you're seeing is recreational boaters coming up into this area. This is the main congestion point on the river. As we go further up and start talking about the Erie County sites, we'll talk about more of the natural area, but people are seriously recreating on this river. I used to be able to go down there and see nobody for 8 hours, and now that is completely unheard of. There is somebody kayaking or on a tiki boat or, just hanging out. On the right-hand side is a picture of the Capri, which just came into town about 2 weeks ago at this point. So that's the South Park lift bridge. it's a working river. It will always continue, well, hopefully always continue to be a working river. We get loads from the lake. We have tugs that bring them down, they unload and go back up. So there is a fine balance between having a dredged navigational channel for industry and creating that that safe, enjoyable place for just recreation. So just want to add another poll question in here just to get a sense of your use of the Buffalo River. So poll time. All right. Question, have you visited the Buffalo River for recreational purposes in the last year? I remember just people would go down there because they had to drive by it to get to General Mills, or, you know, their shop was along the river, and that's the only time people ever heard of it. I used to live in the city of Buffalo. I grew up there. We never went to the Buffalo River to recreate. It just wasn't something anybody heard of. Great job, everybody. So, have you visited the Buffalo last year? 89% of you said yes. That is amazing. And those results would not have been the same way several years ago. Well, they might have been. Some of you might be diehards, not really sure. So where do we go? We have this great river, and what we want to do is bring people to the river in a safe, secure way so that you can enjoy yourself while you're down there. Excuse me. So a couple of years ago, Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper received a grant from New York State to develop the Buffalo Blueway. The Buffalo Blueway is really there and really being developed for you. So what we want to do is we want to create these nodes, these areas along the Buffalo River, along the outer harbor, where you can go and enjoy the Buffalo River. So for some of us, that means kayaking. For some of us, that means sitting on a bench and listening to nature. Some of that, you know, just being out there. So we're looking at all opportunities throughout the area. So we've identified a series of sites specifically along the Buffalo River that we're working on. We go all the way from the outer harbor at Wilkinson Point to Seneca Bluffs, and then potentially in the future, that's the Harlem Road Fishing Access Site, which is owned by DEC. So I'm just going to give you a quick idea of what we've done at 3 of the sites that were, let's call them low-hanging fruit. So they were existing. We did a few enhancements, and now they are part of the Buffalo Blueway. So here we are back at Riverworks. This is probably one of the most used Blueway site that we have currently, just because of, you know, the restaurants there. It's a pretty big hub. This season, due to COVID, obviously it was a little bit little lacking, but still. On the right-hand side, you can see the Buffalo Blueway paddle. That's going to be our marker. That marker is going to be at every single site, so that when you're on the river and you're pulling in, you know that that is a point where you can exit the river, go up there, be safe, explore something. There'll be signage that you know what's going on. We also included some free storage racks where you can pull your kayak out, strap them up, feel free to leave them there for a few hours and go about your merry way, and then come on back and paddle upstream or downstream, whatever you choose. The middle photo is something that I'm extremely proud of. That is the first fully accessible launch on the Buffalo River. So there's a couple sites who have roller launches, which are super helpful for us novice kayakers that aren't comfortable stepping in. So, you know, we have that. But what is included in this launch is that bench seat that you see in the middle. So people with mobility issues can seat themselves on that bench. The bench expands over top of their kayak. Once the kayak is placed down, they can scoot over, use the hanging bar, and lower themselves in and out of the kayak on their own. We were able to use this for an event with some wheelchair-bound people, and it worked out exceptionally well. So this one I'm super proud of. This one's open all the time whenever Riverworks is open, and we have seen a lot of traffic there. The next one is Wilkinson Point, which is out on the outer harbor. This was an existing site. We just added some signage, our paddle, and we'll be including some interpretive signage in the future as well. Mutual Riverfront Park, everyone is usually familiar with this one. This one also has the roller launch, and it's probably one of the most congested, I would say, launches that the Buffalo River has right now. So we're seeing a lot of traffic here as well. So these are the things that we've done already, but we have a few that are in process. Heritage Discovery Center is located on the Buffalo Color Peninsula. The Buffalo Color Corporation was the company that I was talking about earlier that manufactured all the indigo dye, put it into the river. That photo is exactly where that dredge was. But now it's a vacant, cleaned parcel of land that has been fully remediated. So Waterkeeper has been working with property owners. We're about 90% of the way through the design to turn this piece of land into a really welcoming space. And this would be one of the most, the most different, I guess you could say, of any of our launches, because it's not natural habitat right now. So a lot of the places we're doing are, just we're including stuff. This would be a very formal launch with pathways and benches and just a beautiful overlook pier that I can just go and sit and watch sunrise, sunset, birds flying around. It's a pretty amazing site. So we had anticipated having construction on this one begin next year. We might be a little bit delayed because of the economic situation with COVID, but we're still plugging along on this one. The next one that we're currently working on is at the Ohio Street Boat Launch site. So this is a DEC owned and operated site. There is currently a launch there for small paddlecraft, but it could use some improvements. It's oftentimes filling up with debris, or it's just not the best condition. So on the right-hand side is what we plan on doing there, which includes just easier ways to access the water, debris deflectors, and a really an amazing fishing pier on the right-hand side of the property. So this is going to appear to be cantilevered over the Buffalo River for just the enjoyment of feeling like you're out there over it, but it's also a great fishing spot. There used to be a fishing spot there in the past, and we really want to recreate that. We're going to make some upgrades to the parking and drop-off areas as well. It was a really small site, so we crammed in as much as we could. Parking is always going to be an issue at all of these sites. There's people coming in from all over town, and we have these tiny little parks that we're trying to, cram people into. So we're working on that. We were able to get a few more parking spots in here just to alleviate some congestion. And the next one, oh, I'm sorry. So those are the ones we're working on. So the next ones are the Erie County Park sites. These Erie County sites are owned and operated by Erie County Parks and Department of Environment and Planning. There's 3 of them. Red Jacket Riverfront Park, which used to be known as Smith Street Park. It's at the end of Smith Street. We had a presentation yesterday on that park. If anyone's interested in seeing that presentation, please feel free to go to our website. We did record it, and it will be posted there shortly and soon. In addition, we are working on Higgins Park, which is Thomas F. Higgins Natural Habitat Park, also formerly known as the Bailey Avenue Peninsula, and Seneca Bluff Natural Habitat Park. So these are the 3 that we really want to focus on these public meetings, because these are parks that I and we fully believe are neighborhood parks. These are areas that the neighborhoods embrace and feel connected to. And as we move forward, we really want to make enhancements to these sites that will benefit the community, the neighborhood, and promote visitors to the site, because that does increase site visibility, which reduces nefarious activity. So there's a lot going into play with these. And one thing I really do want to mention is that this isn't pie in the sky. This is, Waterkeeper has funding to design and implement these projects. So as we move forward, we could see all of your recommendations today, you know, ish, within the next 2 years. We are on a trajectory to get this done. So tonight I really want to spend some time talking about Higgins Park, which Thomas F. Higgins Park. I'm going to go with Higgins Park because my voice is already pretty cracky. So Thomas Higgins Park, also known as the Bailey Avenue Peninsula, is located at the confluence of the Buffalo River and Casanova Creek. So it's right there where it splits. So you can think back in the past when it was just Buffalo Creek and there was no Buffalo River and it was a nice marsh area. This was their confluence where Casanova Creek came in and it just became a marsh wetland. So this area has always existed as the Bailey Avenue Peninsula, which is in the center of your screen. There's two very distinct areas. So this peninsula was altered recently due to some bridge reconstruction that needed to happen for Bailey Avenue. As part of that, in order to correctly straighten the roadway, the purchase of a parcel down here happened. So now we have two very distinct areas, one of which is a natural habitat area and one that is kind of just a parking area with a lot of potential. So on the bottom right, if you ever see that sign when you're coming down Bailey Avenue, there it is. So just want to throw up another poll question. How many of you guys actually knew that this park existed and was open, you know, for your enjoyment? All right. 5 more seconds. Really like this. You can't see it, but it's giving me like this timer. It's pretty fun. So here are the results. So 88% of you knew this park existed. One of you didn't. I like that 1%. Really like that. You know, you still joined us and you're here to learn more about it. So just a couple pictures of Higgins Park. So we got on the left-hand side is that area I just mentioned was purchased for the bridge reconstruction. So it's a pretty nice flat area. There's parking over there. It is a pretty steep drop into the Buffalo River from the shoreline just because of the way it's currently constructed. On the right-hand side is a photo from the bridge to the peninsula. And you can see the guy in the bottom right also fishing away. So there's actually quite a bit to do at Higgins Park. It might be small, but it's mighty. So there's some beautiful hiking trails that were created. The wildlife there for just viewing and photography is probably one of the best sites. There's a lot of hawk activity around there. You can see mink on the opposite banks. They also installed a backwater wetland, which not only alleviates some flooding, but provides additional habitat. Fishing at that site is huge. Also, where that gentleman is fishing in that photo, people use it as an informal kayak launch. So one of our goals of this project is to formalize a kayak launch, perhaps get it away from the habitat area and really keep it closer to the parking lot for not only, you know, habitat purposes, but also to keep people safe and lessen how far you have to drag your kayak along the Buffalo River. So this park has been identified in Erie County's master plan for their parks. And this was the update that was, I believe, in 2016 or 2018. So it was clearly identified. They have some recommendations and some highlights of the park. Went ahead and pulled those out. So the master planning highlights for this park is to maintain and restore and enhance the park. So keep in mind that these are natural habitat parks. They're not going to be, you know, cleared, and we're not going to put in jungle gyms and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So really want to keep those natural systems in there. Installing security cameras is always a big thing for all of our parks. We want people to feel safe. We want to encourage passive activities. The more positive activities and the more people you have at these parks, the less negative activity occurs. People are not going to be burning benches. People are not going to be throwing stuff into the river if there's other people around. So, you know, as much as we really want to keep these parks secret just for us who know they're there, the more people we have there, the better it is for safety. So some of the recommendations that came out of the Erie County Parks Master Plan update was to improve park signage, produce interpretive signage. So I think once you get into the area, right now there's a lot of new growth, so it's not super hard, but you know, just having some signage about what's around you, what's on the other side of the river, that's all really great. We want to continue all the planting and promote public access to the river. So those trails on the peninsula are wonderful, but we do have this opportunity to do something at that, I'm not going to call it barren, but you know, less than developed area over along the parking area. So maybe that's where we put the kayak launch, some overlooks, a fishing pier, something that can be done there. And there's always constraints, but we still want to hear your ideas. So now it's going to be your turn. We're going to put up a series of questions. It's going to be one long poll and then you'll have some time, but we really want to hear what you want to see there. We might not be able to do it. We might but if you want to see bathrooms, tell us that. We can't do that with this funding, but Erie County's on the call, you know. We can't make corrections to everything that's in the area, but we still want to gather absolutely all of your feedback. So here's a quick poll. There's actually a series of 7 questions on this one. So I'll just read off the questions themselves and I'll give you some time to vote. So we want to know, how often do you visit this park? And who do you go with? Are you just going with yourself? Are you walking your dog? Do you come in the morning, at night? Is it on the weekends, weekdays? What do you do there? You know, when you go to the park, are you like me who just walks around and stares at the birds for a while and then leaves? Or are you biking? Are you grabbing your kayak? And when you are there, what is your main concern? Is there, you know, not enough parking? Are you scared being there? Is there, you know, would you rather see more garbage cans and trails, improving the parking? This is your chance to tell us what you want. And please don't feel beholden to these answers. So we have a pretty small group with us today. So once we're done with these, I'm going to share these to the screen. And then if you want to type either into the chat bar that you're going to have a question, or we can probably just unmute everyone. Jean, if you think that would be good in a few moments, just so that everyone gets a chance to really tell us. We will be taking notes. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't. Feel free. You'll see Jean's email in the very next slide when we're done with that. And you can email Jean directly. It doesn't have to be paragraphs, just bullet points like, you know, I'd really like to see another garbage can. That's what we want to know. We want to make this park better for you. So we have everyone's still voting. I know there's a whole bunch of questions, so we're just going to give it a few more moments. Right. Okay, we're looking good. So here are our results. How often do you visit the park? Several times a week. The winner by 1, but still, we got a pretty good span over, you know, I don't visit the park 2 once a week. It's pretty good. Who do you go to the park with? Yeah, pets and coworkers. Yeah, they're pretty much similar. Lots of morning people. Sometimes depends on the day. Weekends, depending on the week, when you go. How do you use the park? Sit and watch the river. That's 5 of 7 people. Love that. Kayak, canoe, bird watching. Don't have any fisher people with us right now. What is your main concern? So 1 of you responded safety, 1 is parking, and 2 is launching of kayaks. 3 total, garbage. So we can actually talk about that a little bit more when we open it up. I would like to hear about that. What would you like to see at the park? Our number one thing is improved kayak canoe launch. Great, we can definitely talk about that. Benches, garbage cans, security cameras, interpretive history signs, and trails. So looks like, we got some great answers, but keep focused as we open up the conversation to whether or not you would be okay with moving some of those activities, some of your recreation to the other side of the park over where it is currently pretty much devoid of anything. So Jean, if you want to go ahead and unmute everyone, and if anyone feels like they would like to share with us, that would be great. If not, I know there's a couple people in today's meeting who I personally know, so I will start calling on you. So.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine. I always love hearing you talk about the history of the Buffalo River, and I think I always learn something new, so thanks for that. So as Catherine mentioned, my name is Jean Biter with Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper. I'm the project manager for the Buffalo Blueway, and really we're just so glad that you are all here with us this evening and took some time out of your day to come and join us and talk about Higgins Park. So we now have, everyone has the ability to unmute themselves. So if you do wish to share a comment, a question, we've got our Waterkeeper team here, happy to both listen and to answer any questions, concerns that you may have. If you are not super inclined to speak on a video chat, which I completely understand. We also have the chat box where you can either just send me a message or you can send a message to the whole group if you would like. And if you are feeling like you want some ideas to percolate in your head and you're not quite ready to share, Catherine has put up my contact information. So you are welcome to email me or call me at the number below. At any point. We would just, as Catherine has mentioned, we would just really like to hear from you. We want to know how Higgins Park can, become more part of your day-to-day, become more part of your community, your neighborhood, and any way that we can help with that. We just really want to know that. So I think with that, I will be quiet, and if folks want to unmute themselves and share some comments, we would love to hear them.
Eerie version here. We have limited time. I'm going to throw a whole bunch of stuff at you. I did chime in back when the park was being developed. Unfortunately, at that time, from my own personal reasons, I had limited time, and the best I could do was a drawing on a paper napkin to run out of craft. Unfortunately, some things I was hoping for did not happen, and most disappointing to me is that the two sides of Thomas Higgins Park across Bailey Avenue are not properly connected. And there was an opportunity to do so under the bridge on the under the Bailey Avenue bridge on the Buffalo River side with enough headroom. Now, from the low chord on the bridge to the stone that's there now, it's 5 feet. That's inadequate. And there's some quite ugly, I think, signs and railings that prevent people from crossing. I understand that there were engineering constraints, but they could have been solved and maybe can still be solved. If you were to just gain 2 feet and get 7 feet, which is, the lowest headroom you might find in a common basement, put up a sign that says bicyclists must dismount, and then another one says low headroom. You would have an easy walkway without crossing traffic in the middle of Bailey Avenue with no controls on the road there, which is a dangerous situation. Secondly, parking. That little lot is nice. It's adequate, I guess, for now. It's unfortunate. Again, at that time, I had suggested that the old pavement of Bailey Avenue be used for a small parking lot up at the top of the hill, which commonly in the winter, whether it was planned for or not, but previous use continues. In the winter, that's a sled hill. And local neighbors of mine commonly used to park and still do in a very dangerous situation on Bailey Avenue itself. Alternatively, down on the parking lot of Southside Elementary, which incidentally sits on top of Mongovan Park. I don't know if any of you, other than Barry Boyer, would know that there's
I know
such
Mongovan Park too.
See a
Yeah.
Barry. So I would like to see that happen. I know it's not an easy engineering solution, but I think it's very important. So additionally, in terms of connectivity, I think we can leverage some other areas. I mentioned Mongovan Park, and that's on the way to Seneca Bluffs. Your drawing does show a kind of trail that's not exactly defined, but that's fine, which indicates that we would like to see connectivity eventually to Seneca Bluffs. But I would suggest something additional. Some years ago, Buffalo Niagara River Keeper, I think at the time it was already not Friends of the Buffalo River, secured another little park called Old Bailey Woods. So there's limited space there again. There's a fire lane behind the commercial property there, which is Iron Mountain, which could be used, but I think alternatively and better would be to stay outside of their fence and right along the Buffalo River, and maybe not a hard path, but a boardwalk, which would not necessitate contouring the land at all, but certainly just easily setting some piers down, connecting Old Bailey Woods, and okay, now you're headed part of the way to the river line. I won't talk about that section along South Park, but connecting Old Bailey Woods, beautiful canopy there that nobody knows about. And this would provide another fishing opportunity in the secluded area away from the bridges themselves. So if you could do that. Now, over the other bridge, the larger bridge over the Buffalo River, again, an area that's been completely neglected and formally had been designated as a canoe launch halfway between Ohio Street and Harlem Road, is on Buffalo Sewer Authority property, completely not maintained, full of Japanese knotweed. It's been dumped on again, and I think there's an opportunity to get after that, clean it up, and to put in a proper parking lot there. That right of way still exists. That is a public street, whether the auto recovery company likes it or not, and that area needs to be cleaned up. That is a really good spot for a launch, to stay away from the point itself and what would be a somewhat conflicted area if you would attempt to do it off of Mongovan, because you've got the elementary school. So I would try to leverage these additional areas, look at just a slightly wider picture and connect it all. Because in the long range plan, I think that's what we want to do. Connect it.
We really appreciate all those
Yeah,
comments.
I'll get off. I've taken a lot of your time.
No problem. We really appreciate all of your comments. And, you know, this has not been an easy effort. We really had to pinpoint locations that gave us the best bang for your buck. Mongovan Park, that Old Bailey Woods, we just did a whole habitat restoration project there. So these are definitely all on our radar, and not only connecting people, but connecting the wildlife corridors through there as well. So I saw Margot and Jean feverishly writing, so we will definitely keep those into consideration. But for tonight, we really want to focus, and I would like to hear from some other people about, right now, we're focusing on Higgins, and this site, we already have the okay, we have the go, we're ready to go. So if we can do something at this site, particularly for right now, what would you like to see? So anyone else has anything else to offer, please unmute yourself. Or Jean, did anyone add anything into the chat?
Oops.
Nothing specific yet for the
Okay.
chat.
We got someone.
My name's
tell
Eileen.
you something to follow up on what Yuri was talking about.
Okay.
Connectivity along the river is obviously an important long-term goal that has to be worked on continuously. But also more focus on connectivity into the communities so that the people who live reasonably nearby can easily get to these parks is something that has to be on the agenda shorter term.
Yep.
The other thing that I'd like to mention about Higgins Park is that traditionally this area has had a huge problem with invasive weeds of various kinds like Japanese knotweed. So I don't know if you're at that point yet, but I'd like to hear something about the plan to manage the vegetation at that site.
Sure. I'll touch on it quickly while Kristen unmutes herself because I'm going to turn it over to her quickly. So during the restoration of the park due to the bridge realigning, the invasive species were treated, managed, and additional native species were planted. So that's always your goal. You're going to want to try to knock down the invasives, plant native so that they can grow up, provide that cover, which will shade out the knotweed. I do believe, and this is where I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, that continued control is happening there.
Yes, that's correct. We're getting ready tomorrow actually to head into year 2 of our 5-year grant with the US EPA to do all this work along the Buffalo River. And we at least have 2 more years of funding for invasive species work. So most of them, or a good majority of the invasives have been knocked down over at Higgins Park. But in the future, especially next growing season, we're going to be doing some additional plantings there. And we've kind of run into a little bit of a management issue with some of the SAISH events that we've had over the last few years, destroying a lot of the plantings in the fall, winter, and spring months, and has taken out a lot of the full-size trees that we've had there. So it's an issue we're continuing to work on, but we do have at least a few more years of invasive species management funding.
Great. I believe
Okay.
Eileen has a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, no, a few comments more than questions.
Sure.
I walk over there every day actually with my dog, and we clean up over there on Saturdays and or Sundays, okay? One of the things I'm most concerned about is under both bridges, there are people who often camp there. And I've spoken with some of them at different times. And I think that can be kind of dangerous. And if all of a sudden people were there and came across folks, it would be frightening to them. So that's why I put in that safety was one of the issues. I've spoken with a lot of the fishermen who go there, and we'll talk about, you know, keeping the place clean and bringing garbage bags. Some of them will bring garbage bags and throw them into the bushes. Or use the bushes as bathrooms, and people use campfires there and things like that. So I'm concerned about it. It's got a lovely, lovely walkway. You can walk in a circle around it, and it's great. My other concern about it is the fishing line that a lot of the fishermen leave. And I've had to pull out so much of that stuff, okay? I have done my best to help, and I will continue, seeing as I just live a few houses away. Okay. I can't think of anything else right now, but I do agree with the gentleman who was talking about the section over near the Buffalo Sewer Authority. There is a nice little inlet there that will get you down, but that's way, way, way in the future, and I understand that. The other thing I want to just let you know, in case you weren't aware of, back in the 50s, 60s, that was called Gator Island by the kids in the neighborhood here. Okay, quite a history itself. It's written up in one of the little books at the Dog Ears bookstore.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good to know. Thank you.
It was never an island, but when you think of part of Bailey Avenue, I crossed over there from the time I was 7 years old to go to school on Eber Road here. So yeah, there's a lot of history, lots of stories around it.
Well, that's great. We would love to hear him sometime, but we really do appreciate you cleaning up. Waterkeeper does have a program now where we're trying to install fishing line, and I'm gonna put Wendy on the spot, but fishing line receptacles for the fishermen to use. You know, it's
There
really,
had been one there.
no, they
you
do
know.
have one?
There had been one, then it got
Oh.
taken out.
Oh,
I don't know how or why.
okay. So
Something
that's
else was put there, but I don't remember what it is.
definitely something we can look into. That's great. You know, general trash. What is your opinion on garbage receptacles there?
Oh, I would love to have even just one garbage receptacle up at the top of it, you know, so it doesn't destroy the area down there. People should be able to carry their garbage that far, you know, but they won't.
Good for you. We dearly do appreciate all of that.
I know you do.
Any questions come in, Jean?
No questions yet.
Anyone else have anything?
It's like Quinn is raising his hand to speak.
Okay, great.
Go right ahead, Quinn.
Just wondering if you have an organization of local people dedicated to maintaining these systems, because my experience at Houghton Park is the city does a very poor job of maintenance. And my Finger Lakes Trail organization has built and maintains 1,000 miles of trails in southern New York, and we are totally dependent upon volunteers to maintain those. So is any of your effort focused on developing a community friends organization or something like that to address the maintenance that the city can't possibly afford to do?
So in terms of large scale maintenance, no. Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper does do, I think they're almost weekly cleanups right now, where we coordinate volunteers to go out and pick up trash at different sites. For these projects and these local parks, they are beyond the scope of general maintenance. So Eileen, raise your hand. She's our cleanup person.
Now, the other thing is I had volunteered with Buffalo Niagara Waterkeepers, saying that I would help organize a group there. But with the COVID stuff, those projects were canceled for this year and they did it differently, you know. So, but if I can help, I'd be glad to.
I mean, we would love to see the neighborhoods take on these projects, because I really do feel that, you know, they use them, but they don't talk to each other about using them necessarily. So really getting those people together, getting out there once a week, meeting your neighbors, picking up a couple pieces of trash, you know, is always the best way to do it. I don't think we can ever rely on the government, the system, however
You got that right.
to maintain these parks. I mean, yeah, the big stuff, something falls in, breaks, absolutely, but we really need to have that community passion for these parks.
The reason I ask, I'm interested in the Houghton Park, which isn't part of tonight, but there's a Kaisertown Friends Association, which addresses the park area. And I'm wondering if there are similar organizations at the parks that you're currently discussing, because that certainly could help if those groups get focused on the routine maintenance, like Eileen talked about with the trash, which is a problem in many areas.
Eileen, do you know of any groups or block clubs or coalitions that might be interested in taking this on?
No, I think we'd have to kind of begin one. I do know a lady over on Midland who I see, her name is Kathy, who I see on a somewhat regular basis, picking up trash over at the Higgins Park area near Mungovan, connected with Mungovan.
Well, Eileen, if you're willing to give us your contact information, I would love to follow up with you about some community organizing for this park, because it is something that we've talked about and we really want to keep moving on. So I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Sounds great.
Who just talked to me about that? Who just said that?
That's Margot.
Margot.
Yes, you can just
I'm seeing everything here.
you can just put it in the chat, or you can email it to Jean, whichever you're more comfortable with.
Okay.
Here, let me just,
I am the
let
technophobe
me
here.
jump in. I'd love
technophobe.
to make contact with you, Eileen. I live just upriver from you.
Now,
And,
who am I talking to?
Certainly would like to work with you.
That's Erie. So Erie lives over by Seneca Bluffs, right?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
and Seneca Bluffs, I know in the past there has been some push to get like a community friends group of Seneca Bluffs. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I cannot, no, because other than myself informally with some of my friends, I've not connected with a larger group.
Okay. I think this is definitely something that we should work towards. Thank you very much, Quinn, for bringing that up.
Catherine, I know that in the past, Vicky had done some work trying to put together stewardship groups at each of our 3 natural habitat parks, but I don't know where that ended up. But I'd love to continue on with that discussion and connect with everyone that's available.
Absolutely, because this not only benefits the neighborhood, it benefits the county. You know, if you have
Yeah.
you have the
And the
neighborhood
river.
in your park, it's going to be safer and cleaner.
Exactly.
So exciting. All right, well, if anyone, we're rounding up to about 7 o'clock, we got a couple minutes left. Really do appreciate your time, all of your comments. We've taken notes. Please use Jean's email address if you have any other comments. Just send her anything. It doesn't have to be today. It could be next week. It could be the week after. Just keep involved because we really do want to move forward with these projects. Like I said, for this time frame on this one, we're having some, access agreement processes right now, but once we move forward with that, we're going to go, full speed ahead, hire a consultant to come up with some designs for this park where then we're going to re-engage you as well. So we want to hear what you want now. So when we hire somebody to make a design, they're not so far off the bat. But keep in mind that what we're going to be able to spearhead in this process is unfortunately not going to be, redesigning or doing any sort of, pathway underneath the bridge or anything at any of the other parks. So we're really going to be focusing on fishing access, benches, kayak launches, garbage cans, all of that just to make the experience better. So anything that is not part of our current project, definitely, we've all heard your concerns. We all, from my perspective, we all agree with you. So we want to really move forward with that. Please give us your comments and stay tuned. If you also want to be part of those design reviews and be notified for that as well, send that note over to Jean. That'd be great. Tomorrow evening, same time, pretty much same presentation until we get to the park specific will be on Seneca Bluffs. So Eerie, are you ready? You're gonna come with us?
Oh, I'll see you tomorrow.
Bring your ideas. Would love to hear them. For a similar project, really increasing public access there. So we already are in the process of hiring a consultant to design it. So we're moving and we want to know what you want. So we really do appreciate your time. Jean, I don't know if you have any other parting words of wisdom, but
Yeah,
we would love to see you guys join us tomorrow if you're able.
absolutely. And thanks everyone again for joining us. As Catherine had mentioned, we are recording these meetings. So if you want to share, if you want some of your neighbors, family members, friends to be able to watch these meetings, on their own time, we will have those meetings posted on that same website that you went to log into this meeting. So bnwaterkeeper.org/Blueway meetings, I believe is the address. So those meetings will be up and posted early next week. So feel free to share those as well.
Yep.
And thank you again. We really do appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. You have a good evening.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.